Welcome to the inaugural PWHL Ottawa Report, presented by Locked On Senators.
Your Locked On Senators, your daily podcast on the Ottawa Senators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome to the PWHL Ottawa Report. I'm Ross Levitan. That's Brandon Piller. You know us from Locked On Senators, and we are going to have all the great conversations you know and love from Locked On Sens right here on the PWHL Report. Pillsy, we just figured it's better to separate the two so that the PWHL Ottawa fans can find their content right there, wherever they get their podcasts.
Yeah, we had originally been doing this with the Locked On Senators podcast episodes, but we thought, hey, if people are starving for PWHL content on its own, which people are, we've been seeing a lot of great responses. We wanted to make a quick, easy way to be like, hey, this is going to be all PWHL focused. So that's what we're doing here.
We certainly are, and it's a back-to-back situation. The Ottawa team just finished up. They beat the Toronto team 3-1 and then lost in a heartbreaking fashion in the last minute yesterday with 52 seconds left. They give up the game-winning goal, and that was after going ahead and tying the game early in the third period. Lexi Adzija is just on fire. Third goal of the season for her. She's leading all Ottawa players in scoring. But Pillsy, just like Ottawa, with the Senators, it seems like whenever players come back, whether it's a former player or someone from the area, they always produce. And last night, it was a player that many, when the league was announced, and we thought that it was just going to be a foregone conclusion that Jamie Lee Rattray was going to play for Ottawa. She signs with Boston and scores her first PWHL goal in Ottawa. Kind of poetic.
And that's classic Ottawa players scoring their first goal or hitting some sort of milestone in this city. So makes sense.
It was a great game overall, and just the atmosphere, all the young girls. I was watching it on YouTube, and by the way, the YouTube numbers are phenomenal. There were over 10,000 people watching this on a Wednesday night, and what I like, too, is they were going head-to-head with the NHL, right? There's a full slate of games on, and they're like, no, we've got a great fan base here, and they're proving it time and time again. So as this thing rolls on, we're going to continue to get into it. We've got a trio of great kind of reporters that are on the scene here. Alex Adams, who joined us on Locked On Senators this week. Chris Sinclair, who's been giving some videos for us. He runs the Rinkside Rundown podcast. And Monica De Oliveira, who's going to join us in just a couple minutes and discuss what she saw over the last two games. But obviously, unfortunate news as well for Ottawa and their team in last night's game. It was the first game that they had Sandra Abstreiter in goal, and she got injured. Lower body injury, it looks like. Only got to play 17 minutes, allowed 2 goals on 12 shots. Emmerich Mashmeyer comes in, makes 18 saves the rest of the way. Of course, the only one that got past her was the one in the final minute that cost them the points. And ultimately, it cost them points because, right, you get that OT, same in the NHL, but you get that opportunity, and you also give up the regulation win. So now Boston was able to get 3 points out of that game. It was their first head-to-head matchup. Ottawa, though, outshot Boston 39-31. And Pillsy, this was after only having 7 shots in the first period. So, hey, as the game went on, the team, I wonder if the goalie change kind of affects that. You're like, oh, we got a goalie who's coming in cold. We've got to push the pace here and keep the puck at the other end of the ice.
Yeah, I'm sure it did affect it, Ross. And that's the thing. They got to find ways to battle through adversity, just like any other sports team, right? And obviously, you don't want a goalie going down that early in the season, but luckily for PWHL Ottawa, they have an absolute stud in net in Mashmeyer. So that's at least some saving grace there.
And we have a stud coming up on this show. Mo has been awesome at getting the PWHL out there. We're also going to have a chat with Kenzie Lalonde coming up tomorrow on Locked On Senators, so stay tuned for that. Kenzie was calling the game last night with Cheryl Pounder. What an awesome duo those two are. Cheryl's a friend of the show, and Kenzie, we feel like will be here soon. Great vibes. We've had a good online relationship with her going back and forth for a little while, and looking forward to getting her insight on this. We'll have a quick preview of the Saturday game. Ottawa will be taking on Montreal on Saturday at 3:30 Eastern right after. But let's get to Mo and her thoughts on the back-to-back. All right, we now welcome a very special guest back to the show. It is Monica De Oliveira. She is our PWHL Ottawa insider, and she joins us now. Back-to-back games. That was fun.
It was fun. Also, thanks for having me back. Really appreciate that.
It means you did a great job the first time. Lots of really good reports coming back from the citizens out there too. So we're happy to do this, and we love having some insight onto the women's game. And I mean, this is the first back-to-back that they've had. Was there a bit of fatigue on leg 2? They got their first regulation loss, but they battled back from a 2-0 deficit as well.
Yeah, we talked about it last week. We saw Arbstrider come in for the second game. Unfortunately, she got injured, which kind of sucks. But Mashmeyer played great. And even when she came in yesterday, she did a great job, which is awesome. Unfortunately, let in that last goal. But for a goalie coming in cold, I think she did awesome. And the girls looked good for 2 games in a row. I mean, some lineup tweaks, but I mean, for the most part, they stayed the same. So they looked great.
Now, maybe you don't know this, Mo, but I was just curious, like, what happens if you have a goaltender injury like you're talking about, and now PWHL only has 1 goalie? If this is the NHL, easy solution. You call someone up from the AHL, but do you know what happens in this situation if they need an extra goalie, where they pull from or what the options are?
I actually don't. I thought that they had at least 3 on their roster. Yeah.
Okay, so they do have 3.
Yeah, I figured as much. When I looked, I think it was Arbstrider, Mashmeyer, and there was a third that they...
Rachel McQuigg.
Okay.
McQuigg, that was the name. Yeah. So, I mean, at least we know they have 3.
So with that, I mean, Mashmeyer's played the most minutes I mean, I think they've actually played a couple less games, even with the back-to-back, than the Torontos of the world and otherwise. But Mashmeyer's played almost every single minute for this team. Like, at some point, are you looking to get her a rest in here, or do you just ride the hot hand and expect her to be as good as you would, considering that you signed her as a free agent before the draft?
I mean, I'm a big advocate for riding goaltenders. I feel like a lot of it is confidence and getting reps in. I feel like even in the NHL lately, we see a lot of goaltenders playing tandem, and I feel like we're getting a lot less of these franchise legacy goaltenders. Yeah. So I'm pretty big on riding the hot hand. That's my personal take.
.924 save percentage for Mashmeyer so far this season. Just elite. Looks so calm, cool, collected. I think it was our friend Chris St. Clair who said, got a little UC Saros in the style. You know, not maybe the biggest goalie in the world, but certainly takes up a lot of ice and has great lateral movement side to side. Now, we talked about this a little on Wednesday's Locked On Sens with Alex Adams, and maybe the coolest empty net goal I've ever seen. Lexi, from behind her own net, rims it off the wall. Have you ever seen anything like that before?
No, never. I mean, kind of similar to that pass that G Money gave to Pinto the other day. Kind of similar play there. But no, I've never seen that. And honestly, she's been great. Ottawa's top scorer right now. Super hot goal in her last 3 games. So, yeah, she's been a weapon for the team for sure.
And now they're finally getting some production from the top players as well. Brianne Jenner gets a goal. Emily Clark gets a goal. Is this been a testament to their depth to start the season, how they've been able to still get points in the standings without their top players producing more than, you know, what we saw in that game on Tuesday?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like scoring in general has been pretty spread out amongst the team. I feel like a lot of players are kind of getting their first goals. We even saw Della Rovere yesterday come in for her first start and get a goal there and contribute as well. So I feel like the team has pretty good depth overall.
Hope you're enjoying our conversation with Mo. We've got some more coming up, but first, a word from our friends with FanDuel.
Yes, FanDuel is the official online sportsbook of the Locked On Podcast Network, and for a good reason, guys. They're North America's #1 sportsbook. Why would you go anywhere else? I love their app. It's simple, it's easy to use, and right now, new customers in the U.S. can get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 money line bet. That's $150 off $5 if your team wins. There's so many things you can check out on FanDuel, including the PWHL. There's NHL. Football action is heating up as the playoffs get closer to the big game. You got basketball going on, and anything you want, you can find it on FanDuel. You can bet on spreads, player props, over-unders, and so much more. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. Now, speaking of Brianne Jenner and Emily Clark finally getting some points on the board here, do you expect that maybe this is just a bit of a slow start for some of the top players like those two girls you just mentioned, and they're going to get things going here? Or do you think this is more of a team that's set up to have depth scoring, and it's not so crucial that Clark and Jenner are kind of carrying the lead points-wise here?
Yeah, no, I mean, I feel like it's a good thing that they have the ability to have other scorers on this team. And I feel like you can even look at, Sarah Nurse, for example. I feel like everyone thought that she was going to come into this league and completely dominate. But she's been kind of quiet for Toronto as well. So I think it's good that there's depth scoring, I think, amongst most teams in the league right now. So I think that's pretty dope.
If you're watching this on YouTube as well, we've posted the all league stats, and you see Lexi 9th in the league, tied for 9th with points, but Ottawa has played less games than most of the teams, all of the teams other than Boston ahead of them. New York's played 6, Montreal 7, Toronto 7 as well. Now, we are seeing the separation at the top a little bit, like Marie-Philippe Poulin, 6 goals in 7 games, and they obviously have that superstar mentality in Toronto. Actually just knocked off Minnesota last night, who was previously undefeated here. So are we just seeing kind of everybody getting their feet wet right now? Or are you thinking that outside of Toronto, who's at the bottom of the standings, outside of them, that it's going to be a pretty intense battle all the way through this schedule?
Yeah, no, I think it's going to be a pretty tight race overall. I think we expected Minnesota to maybe pull away when they first started. But as we can see, Montreal is right there with them and has overtaken them in the standings now. So it'll be interesting to see if anyone actually does pull away or if they kind of all stay within relative points of each other.
Final question for me here, Mo. Who's been the bright spot for PWHL here so far? Like what's one player that you're looking at and you're like, wow, this player has really done well so far? I mean, small sample size, only 5 games, but who are you highlighting so far?
Yeah, I feel like Poulin has really come out and done really well for Montreal. I mean, she's playing with physicality. She's obviously on the scoreboard. She's scoring goals. I think she's leading as well in goals scored for the league. So I think she's a good player to watch.
I love that. And coming up next for Ottawa, they've got a little bit of not lull. They've actually got a game in 2 days. It's Saturday in Montreal, and then they'll take off for the next week before New York visits in early February. It's the Sunday, so the day after the NHL All-Star festivities. So I expect a good matinee turnout there, and the crowd just still elite in Ottawa, and that's something that we're really going to be focusing on going forward. And we'll have to do some man on the street or women on the street content when we get down to TD Place Arena. I know you've been down there, Mo. It's just an awesome, inclusive atmosphere, isn't it?
Yeah, no, it's fantastic. And even from a spectator's perspective, to see so many women behind the bench, not just players, but coaching staff and equipment staff, and seeing the young women excited about the potential to play in a professional league, which I don't think it was as prevalent back in the day. I think overall it's just a great atmosphere.
Awesome. It's a great atmosphere every time we can get you on the show, Mo. Really appreciate the insight on the PWHL. We're going to be following along closely as the season continues. Still 19 games remain for PWHL Ottawa. And it's about time Ottawa got some playoff games in professional hockey. So we're, all in on getting PWHL Ottawa to be just that. Mo, appreciate the insight. We'll do this again soon.
Thanks so much, guys.
Hope you enjoyed our chat with Monica. We'll have more from her as the season progresses. As Pilsy mentioned, we're going to have this for you separate from the Locked On Senators podcast. And if there's anything in particular you want to see or hear from the PWHL Ottawa report going forward, just send us a note under our YouTube video of this show, and we're going to be happy. We want to make this interactive. If you go to a game and you want to talk about it, you can send us a video. We'd love to play those. We want to make this as interactive as possible. We are the show for fans, by fans when it comes to Ottawa hockey. 3:30 Saturday game. Sounds like a perfect trip to the Glebe Central Pub for lunch. Go down to Lansdowne. Check out the PWHL Ottawa team. Take on Montreal. They need payback after Montreal got that overtime win in the inaugural game at the arena at TD Place. It was, now a few games ago in the standings, Montreal has skyrocketed. First place right now with 13 points so far for them this season. They are 3-1-1-1 because they've got an overtime win, an overtime loss, and a shootout loss in there as well. They've got the best player in the world, Pillsy. And for me, I know you were cheering on PWHL Ottawa, but if you're hesitant and you're like, oh, you don't want to deal with afternoon traffic at Lansdowne, parking, all that, Marie-Philippe Poulin is worth the price of admission.
Yeah, I mean, she leads the team and the league in goals. So you like goals? That's the time to go check out PWHL Ottawa up against PWHL Montreal.
Pillsy, Toronto has 12 goals in 7 games. Marie-Philippe Poulin has half that many goals herself.
Yeah, good player.
Amazing player. So, hey, get down to TD Place Arena, go support the ladies, and stop by the Glebe Central Pub and get after it before or after, where the vibes are free at the GCP. For Brandon Piller, I'm Ross Levitan, and there will be Locked On Senators coming in a matter of moments. We'll go record that right now because it's a Sens game day taking on the Boston Bruins. So a little payback to the city of Boston after PWHL Boston got the win tonight. Hopefully the Senators can have a better finish tonight. But that's Brandon Piller. I'm Ross Levitan. This has been the inaugural PWHL Ottawa Report presented by Locked On Sens. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.